Hello, hello! Today I'll be commentating on a ship that I should have honestly done a while ago, but I've been kind of putting it off for a while, since it does play a bit differently than any other cruiser really. It's of course the Moskva, which you can see from the massive size of this ship, the Tier 10 Soviet cruiser. It's the highest HP cruiser in the game. It also has the best stock range by far at 19.4 kilometers. And honestly, this ship definitively plays more as a light battleship than it does as a cruiser. That means both the positive sides, like the range, armor, HP, and also the negative sides. The sluggish rudder shift, the incredibly big size of it, the garbage concealment. With concealment expert and camo and the stealth module, you only get your concealment down to 13.8. Compare that to pretty much every other cruiser who gets there to 10 or 11. You realize you're gonna be at a significant disadvantage against every other cruiser basically when it comes to who gets the jump on the other. So definitively both the positives and the negatives. And of course, while your AP, the AP on the ship is actually incredibly potent, you have pretty much railgun-like guns with huge penetration and very nice damage. So you can deal a ton of damage from range, but the negative sides is of course you have very hard time disengaging on the ship. In fact, once you are spotted, disengaging is very tricky because turning this ship around means exposing your vulnerable citadel, which is not fun at all. You might notice, by the way, I'm citadeling this Baltimore from over 15 kilometers without any issues. It's AP on it is simply very potent and very much like a light battle cruiser. In fact, there's nothing preventing you from using said AP on battleships as well. In fact, unless a battleship is angled against me, regardless of the range, I will pretty much be using AP against him. In fact, you will find yourself surprisingly citadeling North Carolina, citadeling Iowas at very extreme ranges. Like I've citadeled North Carolinas at 19 kilometers without any issues. That's because of the plunging fire. And you also saw I landed 2 shells on the Fletcher there at 12 kilometers. That's because of the railgun-like quality of these guns, which makes it quite easy to land shots at these extreme ranges. Which is honestly something the Moskva really needs, because it cannot get to those comfortable close ranges as easily as any other cruiser, because once again, the large size, the terrible concealment and such. In fact, one of the things I struggled with early on was staying at a comfortable enough range at the start. I'm a very aggressive type of player, especially in cruisers, and keeping my distance at the start was something I was quite bad at. I kept going in way too aggressive. That's not to say I didn't necessarily have that much success, but I struggled carrying my team. I did a lot of damage, but then I died and then my team lost, and as people who have played this game for a long time know, in order to truly carry in this game, you also kind of need to survive, unless you do absolutely massive damage to the enemy team before you go down. Now, I'm being shot at from multiple angles, which is not very good. I want to angle against them all, but this is kind of one of the situations I spoke about. Basically, this is such a big ship, such a visible ship, much like a battleship, and there's really not any safe places for me to go. If I try to push up somewhere into cover, I'll have to get broadside to some of these battleships. I'm being shot at from their spawn, from everywhere. So I pull what is very classic battleship maneuver here. That is straight up reversing, and that is something you can pull with this ship. This is honestly one of the few ships where it's better to just straight up start reversing than it is to turn around like you would do with many other cruisers. Here I see they're capping C, so I pop radar real fast, see if I can punish this Fletcher. And at 10 kilometers, people often underestimate the range of your radar, and it's quite often you catch destroyers off guard. Near the Fletcher, he had 4k HP, one quick application of radar, and I sniped him out. So that's their DD down. Sadly, that wasn't enough to get us the cap, because our Fletcher has fled to be, as you can see over there. And our team on the left, I'm not really certain what they're doing. It looks like they're kind of pushing and getting control, so that should maybe be okay. Baltimore has stopped giving me broadside. This is regardless of what cruiser I was here. That's a paddling. You simply don't do that. That's definitively instantly punishable. So I switched to AP real quick and get rid of him. But you saw I reversed and I basically let my armor and my HP pool keep me alive. I'm gonna see if I can finally angle myself away from this terrible position I am in. The Hindenburg you see is behind rock, and the Tirpitz is about to go behind rock as well, so this is my chance I can give broadside without the Hindenburg punishing me extremely heavily. I'm also going to use this rock in front of me to cover myself from the enemy Iowa, because you see this turning circle, because of the huge size of this ship. Well, the turning circle isn't that bad really, it's more the rudder shift. So, and the fact that this ship is so massive and it has a very large citadel, it's quite easy to citadel the ship, because at the end it still doesn't have battleship armor, of course. So that's why I basically use the terrain to my advantage before I make this turn. And you saw AP, the Iowa easily bounced my AP since it was angled. He still got a citadel, you saw how angled I was, he still got a citadel on me. At this range especially, very easy for a battleship to citadel you. Now I'm gonna gain some distance, because basically I can't stay where I was being encircled. I had Hindenburg and Des Moines coming around my left, I had this Iowa, Kutuzov and Tirpitz coming around my right. It was basically an impossible situation for me to hold, so I have to start kiting and see if I can help this North Carolina. Now the fire chance is actually quite good on this ship, but I'm really not having the best of RNG here. In fact, usually I would have gotten more fires than this, honestly a lot more fires than this. But of course, when I decided to make a commentary, I guess you have to take the good with the bad, and in this case, having really bad RNG is, well, it happens. It happens. But against any angled battleship, you obviously want to stick to HE. If they get broadside, AP, sure, straight away. No worries, you can easily citadel Iovas if they give you broadside. But against angled battleships like this, just stick to HE, because your AP is just gonna get bounced the majority of the time. Kiting like this also gives me the advantage of recharging my radar and recharging my self-heal, which gives me significantly more staying power in the battle. Iowa is reversing, which is smart. I still haven't gotten a fire. Honestly, finally got a fire, but that's much worse RNG than I normally would have. Yeah, and he instantly even repaired it. It's just that Iowa is very lucky that RNG does not like me today. But once again, you've noticed that I focus very much on keeping the distance. There's a certain skill which you get with the Moskva when you know when you can actually push in and when you can't. And most of the times when you can push in is when the majority, or when the opponents are all in front of you. So you can actually use the great bow armor, and you can use the great HP pool to just endure them as you close the distance or when you push towards someone. That's when it works, but when you kind of have people on multiple flanks, don't bother, because if someone gets access to your citadel, you melt so fast. You can easily be citadeled by, like, even DDs can easily citadel into you, so be careful about giving that broadside. You want to keep yourself angled at pretty much all times, because you will be spotted. You just gotta get used to the fact that you will be spotted all the time. There's no, on other cruisers you can conveniently stop shooting and become undetected and reposition and such. That option doesn't really exist on the Moskva. You're going to be spotted pretty much the entire game. It's just get used to it pretty much. Now the issue here is my entire team has abandoning A. I mean, me kiting back from C is kind of understandable considering how outnumbered I am, but my entire team is running away from A. You notice, by the way, I just citadeled that Tirpitz and deleted him, and that was a battleship. That's what I mean. Don't underestimate the AP on the ship. It's very potent. Now here I'm in a situation. Well, this is a fairly good situation for me. I'm going straight towards an enemy cruiser. The battleship is also straight towards me. I know I can angle fairly comfortably, or I can bounce their shells fairly comfortably from this angle, so I'm not too worried. Now, the issue here is that my team has abandoned A. They were equal numbers there, and they abandoned it. We were outnumbered here, and we had to flee. So the issue here is that we're losing on points, and we're losing fast. So basically, it comes down to me to having to make some sort of play now, which is a bit awkward, because the type of plays you make on this one is more as with the help of your team, usually, or like some sort of support, because you can't really ambush anyone in this ship, or it's very difficult to actually ambush someone because of the very disastrous concealment. That's not to say that the ship is bad in any way. Like, I played, I think, almost 30 games or something in this ship, and I'm averaging 77 to 80%, I don't know now, I've lost or won some games, something like that win rate on it, and I got like 107, 108k average damage. I'm pretty sure I could get it significantly higher, I just need to play the ship more. But my point is that it's for a cruiser, it performs very, very well at T10. It's still not strong enough, I feel, to contest the throne of the Tsar, because the Tsar kinda hard counters this ship, because the Tsar can just sit in stealth and HE spam you to death, and because you don't have battleship armor, the HE deals massive, massive damage to you, and you fire so many fires non-stop on you. Tsars just burn you alive, just like they do to battleships. So you can't really contest, like, you can't really fight the Tsar. Tsar hard counters you pretty much. But except for the Tsar, you have a fairly strong ship at T10, like definitively one of the strongest ships at T10, this Moskva, no doubt. It's not quite up there to the gods of Yamato and Tsar, but it's certainly a very strong ship. Now, I'm asking my team why they're all still in base with so much HP, this rune is almost full HP and so forth. Here I'm in a bit of an issue, I have to angle now. There's both the Des Moines and the Hindenburg against me. Now, when you fight Hindenburgs, when you fight Des Moines, you obviously need to angle against them perfectly, because their AP has very, very good penetration, and if you give broadside, you're going to get punished. So I start angling straight away, and if the Des Moines angles like it does now, your best bet is actually to target the guns. The guns are by far the most vulnerable part of any Des Moines rushing you. You're not gonna penetrate him through the bow on a Moskva, just no chance of that. But you will be able to destroy his guns, provided you get the hits on it. And the thing with a fight like this is that the Des Moines has a significant advantage, because he can pump out so much more DPM than you can. Okay, I damage one of his guns, exactly what I was talking about. That's kind of what you want to do. You want to damage and break them to punish him, but damn, that went a bit off dispersion. You saw how I did absolutely 0 damage, and he's doing quite a bit of damage to me, and he managed to damage my gun. This is getting very iffy now, very, very iffy. I only have one working turret on that 10k HP. Both the Hindenburg and the Des Moines is here, so I can't really push aggressively either. But he fucked up. He's giving me broadside. Yes, I have 6k HP. He has what? 15k HP. But he did the one cardinal mistake he never did. He gave me his broadside. That's an instant triple citadel. And that was me at 5k HP. He had what? 15, 16k. And I deleted it all. That's a very common thing you often see, is that people, when they think the enemy ship is dead, they start turning too quickly and they eat a lot of unnecessary damage. Had he kept his angling the entire time, he could have beaten me, but he basically expected me to die, or he wrote me off before I was actually dead, and he made a cardinal mistake of exposing his broadside. And like any T10 Cruiser, you can instantly punish that sort of thing. Now, sadly, I'm the only one who's really pushing up into these caps and getting us kills. I managed to get Kraken there, but the rest of my team is still very deep in the base. In fact, we have a lead in ships, but they have full map control on all the caps. We're in fact leading by 2 ships, thanks to my 5 kills, but the game is going to end, and we are going to sadly lose this game, which is unfortunate. But I like that Des Moines battle, because it showed you what to do, and then of course how quickly it can go wrong if you underestimate your opponent, like he did. Now, I still managed to top score for my team. We had some not very effective ships on our team, but it happens. It also showed you the struggle of citadeling a Hindenburg. You kind of have to get closer on this to truly penetrate it. Or well, you have to aim at the right spot, of course, but it can be quite tricky on a Hindenburg, even though he was potating as hard as that guy was. Anyway, that was my short Moskva gameplay commentary. Let's move on to the captain perks and the modules. Right, as usual, I will start with the modules. Of course, it's a T10, so not much to talk about here. Consumable wise, I always recommend getting the premium repair, especially on this ship, since you're going to be HE spammed quite a bit, since you're more of a battleship than a cruiser, so being able to repair those fires is very important. Getting premium versions of the other consumables isn't that important, although I might recommend getting the premium version of the heal at least, because it gives you one additional heal and shorter cooldown, both which are quite excellent. Upgrade wise, the first one is straightforward, main armaments. They made it so powerful that it's pretty much a must have on every single ship. Second one, aiming systems, better dispersion, pretty straightforward once again. Third one, here there's some flavor. Oh well, some people like to get the range, but I don't think you need the range because your range is already a whooping 19.4, so I personally highly recommend getting the rate of fire. In fact, I choose rate of fire on the Hindenburg and the Moskva, and I choose range on the Zao and Des Moines, because the Zao and Des Moines, they need the range, they're crippled without it. But both the Hindenburg and the Moskva can do quite fine without the range, and I prefer to instead have much higher DPM. Fourth one, damage control, reduce the chance of fire and reduce flooding damage as well. I don't know, I mean you could get steering gears here if you find yourself losing rudder, but I can't really remember the last time I've actually lost my rudder on the Moskva. It will obviously happen if some HE shells or torpedoes land right on the stern, but honestly it haven't happened to me, so I prefer this reduction. Fourth, steering gears, this thing takes ages to turn already. Like 8.7 rudder shift is quite nasty. What does Des Moines have? It has 8.6 with the same, yes. No, the 8.6 without even having the module. So the Des Moines has better rudder shift without even having the module. So that's kind of why I highly recommend getting the module. So you turn like a stock Des Moines then, or an unupgraded Des Moines. So highly recommend getting the rudder shift to be able to angle yourself, because as you saw, the armor on the ship is quite strong as long as you are angled, and that's very, very important. And fourth, of course, stealth, because your concealment is garbage and you need to get it down to a point where you aren't spotted at the same time as all your battleships at least. Captain perks wise, well, this is my current build that I use on Russian cruises, which is situation awareness, or actually this is pretty much my stock build on most of my cruisers, tier 10 cruisers that is. Situation awareness, expert marksman, then you get vigilance, demolition expert for the fire chance, and concealment expert for the stealth. And once you gain another 18 points, you go for superintendent. Now, I don't actually know if I'll be respeccing anything once that new patch hits, because it's just going to replace situation awareness with shift survivability, which is just honestly going to make this build stronger, since this isn't necessarily that bad for cruisers. It's not this one used to be the best pick, but I think this still will be the second strongest pick for a cruiser anyway. So I don't think you actually need to change anything from this build to 0.5.9. You'll just get this as a bonus basically, since this one will be given to you by default. So I will still be keeping this identical build in 0.5.9. Anyway, that was my Moskva commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed it.